has your husband come back and said, "यार मेरी माँ पर मत jokes crack करो"?
My husband makes me write more jokes about her. He'll be like, make one more. I text my husband random shit all the time. Recently, I was like, listen, if I get famous, you're out. If I'm obsessed with one person in Bollywood, it would be Karan Johar. And I'm already friends with him.
Oh, soft launching your boyfriend on Instagram.
No, hard launch all the way. Just go. Not the black and white photo with the hand. You know what culture is, right? Culture is code for how men like things. And the guy was like, this is not our culture. If you were my wife, I would tie you up and beat you with a stick. Yeah, my dad did say you need to get arranged. And I was like, no.
At the age of 15,
yeah.
Right?
And he said, okay, you can't live here. I said, okay. And I left. And that was the last time I lived in my house. The self-sacrificing mother is the epitome of Indian motherhood. I think every Indian comic in India, they're doing a far harder job than anything I'm doing or anybody's doing in America. I don't care, Chintu in Lucknow, what you think.
Chintu in Lucknow.
You know what I mean?
Alright, so life just got more exciting because we have Zarna Garg on The Good Girl Show. Zarna, welcome on The Good Girl Show and to India.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me. Namaste, everybody. So excited to be here.
So how does India treat you every time you're here?
The best. Exceeds expectations every time. The bar gets higher and it meets it, and the bar gets even higher every time.
Yeah, and Mumbai is your hometown.
Yeah.
You were born here, you grew up here. So every time you come back to this city, what's that one memory that comes back to you always?
I think Mumbai just hits you. It's like a sensory overload for somebody who lives abroad. The humanity hits you.
Yeah.
The people make the place. Yeah, they're like A+ people. They're hustlers, they're grinders. They work hard, they have ambitions, but they also have so much fun.
Yeah.
It is the home of Bollywood. The music that I grew up with, I am obsessed with even today. So the food can't be beat. Sorry, Delhi.
It's such a thing, no? The
It's a thing.
Delhi, Mumbai.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is called The Good Girls Show, and I want to ask you straight away, were you ever asked to be a good girl?
Yeah, my whole life here. That's life in India. That's life everywhere,
Yeah.
to be clear. That's life in America, life in Europe when we live there. Girls are expected to be good and better than boys. Boys can be rambunctious and they're just being boys.
Yeah.
But I do think that it's at an extreme peak here. My whole childhood was like, don't say that because, you know.
Log kya kahenge?
No, and also that's not a girl thing to do.
Right.
That's too harsh of an opinion. So my whole life was that. It probably in some way it is today too, you know. Yeah. I am a daughter-in-law. I am a mother. So people routinely get shocked by the things I say because it feels jarring coming from a mother.
You said that, you know, this is universal, like the good girl conditioning is everywhere. But do you find any difference? Like, who is the good girl in America?
All the girls that are young and are being raised, you know, by traditional families, which is 90-something% of all girls, they're all good girls. So the schools expect them to be good girls. You get rewarded for good behavior. Yeah. You get rewarded for sitting nicely and not questioning authority and following the rules and not being rambunctious. Whereas if you're a boy, you will get a lot more leeway. You know, if he's running around, they'll be like, it's boy energy. Yeah. So it's the same thing, you know, it's like every school, every college rewards good behavior, and that's typically associated with women.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to dive a little into your childhood, and for that we have something very interesting here, which is the Good Girls Report Card. The first part on this is I've been called.
Okay.
So there are a few words here, and you have to tell me the words that people have used for you, be it when you were a child or all your life.
Loud, talkative. Talkative was a running theme. Sarcastic, bossy, opinionated, too much. I was always too much. Girls girl is a new thing. Girls girl is the last 10 years, and I'm very proud of that actually.
How did that change happen? Like last 10 years, when you say girls girl happened like in the last 10 years, what do you mean by that?
What I believe and what I've realized is that women have to collaborate with each other if they want to build big things. I'm a big voice for women working together, women supporting each other. And honestly, as a woman entrepreneur, a woman CEO, founder, I have more fun working with other women. So now I'm in that phase of my life where I'm just embracing that, and that is a very girl world that I didn't have. I grew up believing that you had to have the men help you. You had to be part of that male world if you wanted to succeed. Now it's much different. Within the women community, I have my issues with some women, and I get along with some more than others. But overall, my biggest joy is building with women. My whole staff is 80%, 90% women. Everybody I collaborate with, women are doing really cool things. And so in that world, like I find myself most comfortable.
Right. Who was using these words for you? Was it your family?
Everybody, my dad, even my mom. My mom, I think, was afraid for me. Because if you're a very talkative, what in India they call talk back, or back talking, or being smart. She was very afraid that what would be the repercussions of that. That if I said something to somebody and offended them and all of that. I mean, all the punchlines that people love today have existed in this brain since day one, But back then, I remember everybody, my siblings were always afraid, like, don't say that, don't say that. Whatever's coming to your mind, don't say it.
You said you've been called opinionated also, and I've heard you say somewhere that, there was a time where you were questioned for your opinions, and then you reached a point where you started monetizing your opinions. Yeah. So tell me, how did you reach that point where you just stopped caring about
I mean, it happens gradually. I think as you get older, you have less threshold for other people's nonsense anyway, in general.
Yeah.
I think as you get older, you realize that other people's opinion are not going to feed you or your kids. They're not paying your mortgage. So there's a limit to how much it matters, if at all. Everybody has an opinion on my kurta, on my bindi, on my pant, on my belt. The whole of India is like, why is she putting a belt on a kurta? So that's another opinion, But gradually you just stop caring, and you stop caring with the more responsibilities you have. I came to this business as a mother of 3, as a wife of 20-something years. I don't have time. I honestly don't have time to hear even what somebody's opinion is.
Right. Okay, the other section on this is feedback and remarks. Now, this is about how your report cards used to be when you were a little girl. Okay, so tell me a remark that always used to be on your report card.
She's too curious. Yeah, okay. I paid a price for my curiosity. I was obsessed with learning. I still am. I learn something new every day. You'll find me like going down the bylanes of YouTube, learning some new skill, masterclass, all these things. I'm obsessed with these things. But I remember one of my teachers one time saying, she's too curious, we can't keep up. Because I had too many questions about everything.
Yeah, this was your school in Bombay, right?
Yeah.
The other part is a remark that you wished for. So something that was never written for you, something that was never, said to you, but you wished that I would have liked to hear this.
They said it in different ways and not necessarily meant as a compliment, but I'm proud of it. I think somewhere in my astrological chart, it said she's going to be Prime Minister someday. And I think they meant it like she's so irritating that she thinks she's bossy, and it was that kind of vibe of like what she might become. Okay. I wish they had just said she's ambitious. There's nothing wrong with women having grand ambitions. And I'm very ambitious. I'm running a huge company and I'm growing it every day. And I wish they would have just embraced it. And today when I see young girls who say, I want to do this and that, I tell them, I'm like, you should shoot for the moon and higher. Why not? Yeah.
So who were these they who said that?
It's everyday life. Your parents, your school, your teacher, your friends, their parents. And a lot of it comes from a place of their own insecurity. Like, I identify with women who need to work to put food on the table because I live an extremely high responsibility life. My husband and I, we work together to build the life that we have. And he, in fact, lost his job during COVID. So it was all me, and it has been all me for years now. As a woman, if you say you need the money, it's like you're committing a crime.
Right, absolutely.
As if we don't need money to live.
Correct.
Anytime I use the M word, people get nervous around me.
The M word?
Yeah, because it's as if we don't have to pay our rent and pay our bills. In my home, it was my dad. My dad was like, please don't read another book. You will read and then 10,000 new questions will come up.
Oh yeah, a well-read girl is a thing. Yeah.
It's a liability.
Yeah.
He used to say, the more you read, the more questions, and then no one's going to want to marry you, and then you'll
Yeah.
go to somebody's house, you'll have opinions, and nothing good has come out of this. Yeah.
How would you respond to all these things? Like, I'm just curious.
I'm not confrontational like that. I do my own thing. I'm not confrontational, but I'm very determined. So people like chatter around me constantly and they have their opinions.
Were you the same when you were
Yeah,
were
all
a
my
little
whole
girl
life.
also?
My whole life. I mean, look, if you're familiar with my story at all, my dad did say you need to get arranged.
Yeah.
And I was like, no.
At the age of 15,
Yeah.
right?
And I was like, no, I don't want to. And he said, okay, you can't live here. I said, okay. And I left. And I left. And that was the last time I lived in my house. Ever. I was 15, not even 14 and a half. So I was always that person. I was always like, I'm going to do what I want to do. I've never been disrespectful to anybody. You will never see me really yelling at people or fighting with them because everybody has the right to their opinion. And I really believe that. And I've never fought anybody. My dad was a very scary, imposing figure back in the day because he was successful, self-made. Other people were scared of him because he would be ranting. And, you know, a lot of Indian dads are all day yelling and screaming. He was one of those. I never argued back.
Okay.
But I just found my own little bylane and like cut out of that.
Yeah, yeah. So this settling down
Yeah.
is such a thing, right? Like you settle ho jao, and settling down means get married.
Yeah.
But is this settling down just an Indian thing?
It's Indian in the way it's being phrased.
Okay.
You will not find the phrase settle down abroad. In my knowledge, I've never heard anybody abroad, not Indians, say that. I don't think settling down is just get married. Settling down is also put a lid on your opinions, put a lid on your ambition. Now your job is to support this family or this husband and then the kids that come out of it. Your happiness is tied to their happiness because a self-sacrificing mother is the epitome of Indian motherhood.
Yes.
Every movie applauds the mother who gave up everything.
Correct.
You know, so that settling down is the road to getting to this elevated motherhood here. And some version of it exists everywhere. But I think abroad now, more and more we're starting to challenge that. And we're like, you know, every woman doesn't have to give up her entire existence to be a good mother or to even be a mother at all. Like there can be a balance, or you can have a mother who says, I don't care about this. I don't want to do it. Like, as long as it's not a safety issue, it cannot all be on the woman. And of course, we have very limited or no expectations from fathers.
Yeah.
So maybe that equation also needs to change a little bit.
You know, like how they use the word bare minimum
Yeah.
these days.
Oh, it's not even there.
Yeah.
The bar is low.
But when did you ever realize that you have a funny bone?
People have been saying I'm funny my whole life.
Yeah.
I don't see it in me. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm actually like yelling at people all the time. I have real opinions that I'm sharing, including my comedy special that's out now on Jio Hotstar. It's 1 hour of my opinion on how everybody should live.
Yeah.
It's me. I'm not standing up there thinking, why aren't you laughing? You don't want to laugh? Don't laugh. But people find it funny.
Yeah.
People find how I phrase the words funny. People find the connections I make funny.
Yeah. Also, good girls should not be funny. Good girls
Oh,
can't
no.
be funny. That's
Yeah.
also a thing, right?
Yeah. It's vulgar to be funny. It's
Yeah.
vulgar to laugh out loud. Yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah. I've heard you say this so many times, and I think that's something that I've really, really kept from, you know, the zillion things you've said, which is that women should have the right to laugh at whatever they want. You know, and I thought that's such a wonderful, fresh perspective, because women should have the right to make jokes or say whatever they want.
Of
is fine.
course.
But laugh at
it.
Yeah.
But you'll be surprised. I'm not kidding. There are people who hide and watch my videos. My videos. What's going on in my video? That's a problem. But I know what the problem is. Women in traditional families are very nervous to be associated with the woman who's known worldwide as the woman who trashes her mother-in-law. They are scared that if their husbands find out, they will get upset. That if their mother-in-law finds out, they will. I have done shows in the Middle East, in Asia, in India, where like from the stage, I can tell that the woman wants to laugh, but she's too scared that if she does, there could be a repercussion. It's outrageous.
Right.
It's actually like, it's so preposterous that I don't even have words for it, but it happens all the time. In New York City, I was doing an event for like some Indian event. I was there for something. And this couple walked in, this young Asian couple. Let's just say, not Indian, but South Asian couple walked in. And the woman got very excited when she saw me. She's like, oh my God, you're the auntie who makes mother-in-law jokes. And before I could react, her husband held her hand and said, you don't need to talk to her, and took her away from me.
What?
Yeah. This is a modern couple. This is a young modern couple. And like the whole evening, the woman didn't come anywhere near me, did not talk to me. And I felt so sorry for her because she was clearly excited. And I didn't want to go near her because, like, God, I don't want to create problems in her life.
Yeah.
You know, personally, me, I wanted to slap her husband. Me personally, I was like, what is wrong with you? Are you an idiot? We're just making jokes here.
Right.
But the level of oppression that exists, that we don't even know exists, is very real. It's very, very real, and I see it every day.
So, but I've always thought that you crack jokes on your mother-in-law and you do it in the most nonchalant way possible. But has your husband ever felt bad? Or has your husband come back and said, yaar, meri maa par mat jokes crack karo?
My husband makes me write more jokes about her. He'll be like, make one more, make one more. He loves those jokes the most. But if she says anything, he'll be like, dekho, she's American. Then he throws me under the bus. But personally, he loves the mother-in-law jokes. He's been telling me do a full hour on mother-in-law alone.
Wow. It's amazing because generally people do get triggered, right?
They do, but my husband and I, we're best friends for 26 years. He knows our life. Even my mother-in-law, she's very smart. She knows what we're doing. She knows why we're doing what we're doing. She knows how much of it is personal and how much of it is just for fun.
Yeah, absolutely. But when you do crack these mother-in-law jokes, your husband doesn't mind, your mother-in-law doesn't mind, but I'm sure other husbands do mind.
Yeah, all
What
the
are you
time.
doing?
I get trolled all the time. If you go in my comment section, it's filled, especially with young men from India. This is not our culture. You should. Somehow they've appointed themselves the culture police.
Correct.
Like, I don't care, Chintu in Lucknow, what you think.
Chintu in Lucknow.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to make the joke, don't make the joke. Like, somehow any guy out there feels free to have opinions on us.
Yes.
We've not asked for your opinion. We're not asking for your money. We're not even asking you to follow us. In fact, sometimes we're actively asking you not to follow us.
Correct.
Leave us alone.
Yes.
They want to be involved in our world and then they want to trash us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Happens all the time.
Yeah.
But I don't take it seriously.
I'm sure, but I imagine like हमारी संस्कृति, हमारा culture that आप अपनी mother-in-law पर joke crack कर रहे हो.
You know what culture is, right? Culture is code for how men like things. Culture has existed through the millennia, and through the millennia, women have had no power. So who created the culture? It was men who set the rules. So when you're doing something that is not our culture, it's just code for our men don't like it. If you take the words culture out and say don't do this because our men don't like it, you realize how crazy it is. But they gave it like a little spin and made it like all polished and like packaged, sounding like it's this bigger thing than what it really is.
Correct. Yeah.
So Chintu from Lucknow 200 years ago set the culture.
Yes.
And why am I worrying about what he likes?
Yeah. Absolutely. Were you able to share everything with your mom? Like talk to her about everything under the
No,
sun?
she was very exhausted. I was the youngest of 4. Yeah. She had 3 kids before me. Everything I did exhausted her. My whole childhood, if you find any photos of my childhood, I had the haircut that's called the boy cut.
Yes.
Do you know the boy cut?
Yes, the boy cut.
Where it's
of
like literally like this much hair.
Correct.
Because she couldn't even deal with brushing my hair. But I was very blessed that my 3 siblings raised me. I got a lot of love and attention from them. I was their 4th wheel everywhere. Even though I was much younger than them, I went to every movie. I mean, also India. India was India. India is India. I remember, I think I was like 5 or 6 when I watched Insaf Ka Tarazu with my family. Because they were watching it and you're too young for that movie.
Yeah,
It's the iconic rape movie.
What?
Yes. Yeah.
So what happens?
Ranjit, and then there's, and she's getting raped and she's getting killed. There's a lot of bad things happening. But they were going to go watch it, so they just took me with them. And I was like, yeah, sure. Yeah.
Correct.
I actually didn't care what was happening at all. I was just like, just take me with you wherever you're going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's another film you remember watching in theaters in India?
I was I'm a true Bollywood fan the way everybody is. Maine Pyar Kiya was, I think, just released when I was leaving India. So that one, all my friends, I mean, you guys all seem very young. You're like rolling your eyes
Maine Pyar Kiya
probably.
was, I think, 89.
Something like that.
Yes. Did these movies shape your idea of love? Because that used to happen, right? That was the only source.
Yeah. I'm sure that they influenced what I thought a relationship should be, for sure. But more than love, it shaped my storytelling. I'm a stand-up comic from New York, which is the toughest place to be a stand-up comic. The bar has to be this high for you to do any comedy in New York.
Why is that?
Because there are too many people. If you want to be a stand-up comic in New York, there are thousands of people and 5 clubs. They can't give everybody stage time. The club that I work in, they calculate what is called laugh per minute.
Okay.
So it's a very mathematical thing. When you're doing a 5-minute set, they are counting how many laughs you generated in those 5 minutes. And you have to be at the very peak to get called back.
That's pressure.
It is, but it is. It's not like you can't just stand there and faff around. That's not what that is. When people come and pay money to a comedy club in New York, there's no storytelling, there's no Meri Mummy, Mera Papa, there's none of that. You gotta get into it like a machine and just hit. But even with that condensed joke structure that I'm very well known for, there's an Indianness that you will find.
Absolutely.
The topics, the way we come at it, because that's the Bollywood 50 years. I'm 50 now. Almost my entire life of listening to music, watching the stories. It's like melded inside my brain. So even though I have this New York sensibility that is very, very real and it's very much the core of my skill, it's like surrounded by this whole Bollywoodization of how I do things.
Yeah. Do you have an actor that you admired or you used to love watching on screen?
I love them all. Like I'm not precious. I love them all. From Shah Rukh to Salman to Amir Khan, who I grew up on. But then I also love all the Govinda, Mithun. I listen to all the music. I know all the actresses. If I'm obsessed with one person in Bollywood and one person whose attention I wanted, who I was like, I wish I could meet him, it would be Karan Johar. And I'm already friends with him.
Oh.
Because he created, I sometimes think that if he was not part of the Indian world, love stories even today would be like, oh, Meri Mummy ka Kangan, and come, let's go press her feet in the name of love.
Yes.
He brought that Americanized love story that I love you, but you don't love me, and it's okay if you don't love me, I understand. Like all that, like he brought that to India. Like Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, in the end, Salman understands that he's going to lose the girl.
Correct. Oh,
like,
I felt so bad.
Right? We all were like, no, go with her. Go with her. But so his creative brain is very interesting to me. Where did he get these ideas from? Even though he sets it in these big grand settings where the helicopter is landing on the front lawn.
Yes.
I get it. Like it's a little theatrical.
Yeah.
But the emotions behind it are very modern and like soft.
Yeah. What do you think about love and dating today? You have 3 young kids.
So unrealistic. Everybody thinks they're too good for everybody else. Everybody's got an opinion on like, oh, this one's not good enough. That one's not. Guys, drop the bar, drop it lower. It's not about finding that one person. Sometimes it's about becoming that couple. 2 very imperfect people can come together and form the perfect union. It's too much obsessiveness with like, I like him, but this is not right. Well, something's not going to be right about everybody. Newsflash, you're not 100%. Let me just break it to all the young people watching there. Like before they judge anybody in a romantic setting, take a good hard look at yourself. I am happy to point out all your flaws for you.
All right. So I'm going to give you a few situations now, and you tell me what you think of these things, okay? And we're going to call this auntie approved or cancelled.
Okay.
Because you call yourself an auntie.
Yeah.
Which is also ironic because auntie is such a slang.
Only in India. I mean,
Yeah.
and actually even abroad it is, but it's ridiculous because aunties have kept the culture moving. Aunties have held up that masala chai that you like. It's the aunties who kept it alive. That food that you like, all those traditions, Raksha Bandhan, Holi, Diwali, it's not the uncles, I'll tell you that. If it was left to the uncles, everything would have died by now. We would be eating bananas for everywhere. At a wedding, another banana. That's what it would have come down to.
Yeah. Okay, so auntie approved or cancelled. A girl proposing to a guy. What do you think?
Yeah, auntie approved. I'm too modern for all that.
Yeah.
Just say it. Just stop playing games. Just say it.
Okay. Soft launching your boyfriend on Instagram.
No, hard launch all the way. Just go. Get into it. Who cares?
But have you seen this happening?
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
Oh my God. Please, not the black and white photo with the hand. Something's in the air. Like, shut up. We don't have time. Just say it or don't say it. Please do not waste my time. It's not, your life's mystery has very limited engagement for me.
Okay. Breaking up on social media.
Yeah, do
And
it.
then deleting.
I'm savage. You don't understand. I would do it. I text my husband random shit all the time. I'm like, I was like, listen, if I get famous, you're out. 26 years we've been together. I think we've done it now.
Okay, so you're all game for breaking up on like having a over dramatic breakup. Okay.
Or not at all. Just text and then delete contact. There's no drama on your side. He can do
Right.
whatever he wants.
Okay. Live in relationship.
Yeah. I mean, it's reality. It's like it's time to move past it. Because again, if not, the woman will be pressured into making a subpar decision.
Yeah.
Because it kind of just falls on the woman to hurry things up and do things she doesn't want to do and make decisions that she's not confident in. So yeah, live in, sure.
Okay.
But I also, if not, get married and get divorced is equally fine. Yeah, I mean, it's not a big deal.
Not wanting kids.
Sure, please don't. Actually, it's a mistake. I made it 3 times and I'm paying for it. I'm telling everybody, don't have kids. They're thankless, they're expensive, they're hella work. Unless you can put them to work the way I do.
Okay. Splitting bill on a date.
No. That's where I draw the line.
No?
And not because I want the money. Not from a take as much as you can get point of view. You want to see if the person is invested in it or not. To me, that's what that signals. Is this a very important thing in this person's life or not? Is it important enough to buy your meal? This is not a high threshold. If you're not even important enough to buy a meal, you probably shouldn't be with this person. He's out.
Yeah.
I think let one person have ownership of that moment.
Yeah.
That this is a plan that I made and I'm going to execute it all the way and invite you in my world. That's how I see it.
Right, right. Okay, I'm going to give you quick 4 phrases that are, largely used today, and you tell me what you think of these phrases. Main character energy.
Yeah. A real boss.
Yeah.
And yeah, I relate to it.
Yeah. Delulu is the only Solulu.
Delulu, you gotta be a little delulu. I'm a founder, CEO, I run a company. You have to be delusional to believe that you're gonna win. You have to be so not just delulu, you gotta be delulu on steroids. Because you are fighting the odds everywhere.
Yeah.
You're up against like this thing that I created, it was up against a $50 million movie with John Travolta. You have to, in your deluded mind, believe that you can stand up to it. So, but I'm all for the delulu. Like, real life is boring and depressive.
Yeah, that's true. Bare minimum versus princess treatment. You must have seen this going on right now.
Yeah. I get it. I like the princess treatment, but I earn it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't expect anybody else to do it for me.
Yeah.
I work so hard that I buy myself the princess treatment, and that's what I recommend.
What's a bare minimum that you think we sometimes mistake it as a princess treatment?
Oh, the bar is low. The bar is very, very low. I mean, if the guy texts you K, not even okay, K. I've seen women get excited. Like, I heard from him,
He texted back.
Yeah. So That to me is bare minimum. Like, don't get excited. Don't get excited easily.
Right. And last one, ate and left no crumbs.
Yeah, that's pretty much my career.
Yeah. All right, coming to career, quick two questions. We were talking about how women who are funny are also judged, women who laugh are also judged. But has this ever happened that somebody's come up to you or made you realize that is this supposed to be funny? Hasna tha kya?
Yeah. Oh, every day people say this isn't funny, that isn't funny. Like, and I feel bad for them. We have lived in survival mode so long as a nation. And we've lived this stressed out existence for so long. We cannot unclench. Sometimes that surface exploration also has a purpose. Only Indians, if you win a lottery, will be like, ab tax dena padega.
Or if your medical reports are okay, अरे पैसा बर्बाद हो गया.
Yeah, क्यों किया? Exactly. Like, relax. Even if it's not funny, find it funny for a minute. It's a better way to live.
Yeah. But is there any Indian comedian that you have admired, whose voice you've admired?
So many. I think every Indian comic in India is spectacular. And I think that they're doing a far harder job than anything I'm doing or anybody's doing in America. I think it's so much harder to do comedy in India. I think what I do is a joke compared to the Indian comics here. The writing is superb, the risks they take, all the everyday drama and hassles they put up with, including hostile audiences.
Yeah.
They are not an easy audience. I have so much anxiety. I'm very American. I have trauma now. I have anxiety about performing here because people are on edge constantly. Is this worth my money? Is this it? It's like that energy, like as an entertainer from the top, you're absorbing it all. But I think Indian comics are killing across the board. Veer Das is setting new standards every day. Aditi Mittal is a hero of mine. I think what she's done, it takes a lot of courage to do what she's done. All the Hindi speaking comics, I'm obsessed with them. I'm one of their millions and millions of followers. I think the work is outstanding that comes from here.
Yeah, there's also I sense there's this fear that's crept in because how much can you say, what can you say, what can you not say, because being called out has become so easy. But your jokes are really harmless. But do you sense this fear sometimes? Do you think,
I
okay,
do,
I cannot
but
say this?
sure, call me out. Do you remember the name of anybody who called me out?
No.
They just made me grow more.
Yeah.
The whole world knows my name. Sure, you want to sit in your house and call me out and whatever. The number one thing Indian people like to do when they get upset, unfollowing.
Yes.
Because they're like, you offended me so much, unfollowing. And I have so many things I respond to. Sometimes I have a gif of a ship sailing. Sometimes I write out the lyrics of the Titanic ka song, My Heart Will Go On. Yeah. I have fun with them. I'm like, I choose to have fun with the offended people. And sometimes they actually start laughing and come back.
Following you again. You're funny. All right, we have a last segment that I'm very excited about. It's ironically the last, but it's about the firsts of your life.
Okay. First time you were trolled. Oh, where to begin? It's a lineup of, I think it was a mother-in-law joke, and the guy was like, this is not our culture. Culture is the coded word. You should not make these jokes, and if you were my wife, I would tie you up and beat you with a stick. Yeah, this is true. And like really got it. And I've made a joke about it in my comedy special. You can see the whole joke. And it's a lot of dicks. That's all I'm going to say. But at some point I was like, why are you doing this? Like, are you just having a bad day? Like sometimes you're like in an angry place and he's like, I just got a B in algebra. So it was a kid. It was a 15, 16-year-old kid who loves his daddy.
Who's saying that I will tie you up?
Yeah, I will do this and I will do that and I will blah, blah and whatever. It was a kid and he was having whatever. And he said, I love my daddy. All daddies are whatever. And I'm like, all right, you know what I mean? Like, why are you here, my friend? So that, like, a lot of trolls are that. They're having a bad day in their own life.
Yeah. First period.
I think 5th or 6th grade.
Yeah. So, did you have any myths around periods?
No.
No.
No, but I just didn't know what it was at all until it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was no talk about it. There was no parenting moment of, let me tell you. So it's kind of how we've all grown up, and it's also true in abroad, just so you know.
Okay.
It's the same thing, yeah. And no parent is sitting around. I'm not saying no. There are some parents who will be like, and you know, this is gonna happen, and this is gonna. But vast majority of parents are like dying and just trying to keep their kid alive and get through the day.
So there's shame around menstruation. You're saying like it's universal.
I think not as much as here, but there is definitely shame. It's not like anybody's celebrating it there.
Correct.
You know.
Correct. So
it's just in India, everything is stigmatized to the nth degree.
That's true.
You can't go here. You can't do that. There's none of that over there.
Yeah. First joke on mother-in-law.
Oh yeah, when she visits America, she asks, "What can I bring for you?" And I tell her, "Pack a gun," because I want security to hold her up.
All right. First joke that backfired.
You know, not necessarily backfired, but it just didn't work, was a father-in-law joke. What I've learned is that everybody is excited by mother-in-law jokes. Nobody cares about the father-in-law. I've been trying to write a good father-in-law joke since the day I started. The audience could not care less. Nobody's ever interested, even though my father-in-law says crazy things too. But it's like the job is invisible. But nobody's interested. I had to let it go.
Yeah. First time you realized your husband is a green flag?
Dinner party a few years ago. Before I became a comic, I was failing at many entrepreneurial ventures. I was trying all kinds of things and failing at it. And he is an IIT grad. So, you know, IIT in India has its own like little thing. And his friends are all very powerful people in America. Like they are running big companies. Their wives are like beautiful supporters of their husbands. So that's the world that we were in prior to my comedy. And I remember at a dinner table, they were all making fun of me because I was the one who was always trying new things and failing. And I would try it very publicly. So it would be like, oh, Zarna Ben, what are you doing next? Or another thing, how much money are you spending doing this business and that business, whatever. And I was used to being the butt of those jokes that, yes, this isn't working, that's failing, blah, 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 whatever, right? And my husband was watching at the dinner table. He was watching this go on. And he speaks very little. And he just took a pause and he looked at me across the table of 10 people and said, you know why they're all making fun of you? Because one day you're going to find your thing and then you're going to be unstoppable. And they're scared. And then he just kept eating. And that day I realized, I was like, I'm glad I didn't get arranged. This is a good one.
That's so sweet. And I think I think that's the perfect note to end on. Thank you so much for firstly taking out time and being on the show, but also most importantly for being yourself. I think every girl who's ever been told to shut up, not laugh, not be funny, I think all of them can just look at you and take inspiration.
Please, let it rip, ladies.
And I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Hope to see you soon in
Thank
India.
you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the platform. Namaste to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.